Okay. Just 1 second. Yes. So good evening, everybody. Hmm. You're all comfortably at home or getting there. So the non-dual home in us greets the non-dual home in you. So this is a huge subject running through all mystical and non-dual understandings, and at the core of most of psychology as well. Such a simple word, home, and so incredibly loaded. It's loaded with identifications, beliefs, conditioning. This is the conditioning in which I feel at home. Or whole cultures, ways that we relate to being here in the unknown. This whole area of mind which recognizes patterns and associates new things with old things in order to try and understand them. So what kind of beliefs do we feel at home with? What kind of conditionings, ways of speaking, ways of behaving, ways of relating to life, ways of relating to death, ways of relating to each other, the other? Is home for us a place which is home because it excludes other people? Like a fortress to arm ourselves against others? To keep out the neighbors? The not home, where we don't feel home? The strangers? The aliens? Or is home a place of protection, of sanctuary? How do we relate to home, even with our ideas, with our beliefs? Is home somewhere that has to feel safe? Or is home something more in the depth of ourselves, which was able to survive all of those different kinds of home where we really didn't feel safe at all? Maybe where there seemed to be danger, or was danger. See how loaded it is. We didn't even scrape the surface of the mind. And already there's whole forms coming into play of what this word home means. What does it even mean? And how many homes do we carry around inside of ourselves? Maybe we carry the home, which is the one that we're always longing for, but never seem to arrive there. That home for which we're always homesick, always missing, always wanting to return there. That holy, safe, relaxed, peaceful, inclusive, warm, caring home, where we can be totally ourselves and not even that, where our being is simply one with the environment. And maybe we have another kind of home, which is the biological home, or the national home, or the cultural home, or the historic home. The home we grew up in. Maybe we never left that home. Maybe we never really arrived in it either. Maybe it became an issue. The home with the mother and the father never quite felt complete, or never felt completely like it made sense. Always been a bit of a puzzle. Asked many more questions of us than we were able to answer. That home. The home where we were as infants, as babies, as young children. The home, the soil we grew up in this lifetime. And what's our relationship with that home? Maybe this home we're not so much wanting to go back to. At least not in the same way. Helpless. Confused. Sometimes. And then there's another kind of home, which is the home which is home for us right now in this world. And how many of those are there? There's the physical house, maybe, that we're living in, the place we retreat to, the place where we've got a key to the door, which we can lock, where we keep our stuff, where we have our bed, where we can rest at night, more or less. But there's also the home that we find in this world. Maybe it's when we're doing something that we love, or with people that we love, in community. When we visit a place, maybe on the other side of the world, which we love, and here we find another kind of home. So this word home is tricky, and for some, home is in the other beloved. Home is where my beloved is. And this is also something, it's partly how we recognize each other, is when we feel at home with each other. It's like the conversations just make sense. They have a natural joy in them. There's an unconditional aspect to belonging. We feel at home together. And this is so precious as well. So clearly, home is not really a place that exists somewhere other than where we are. And there are certain activities or environments or memories or conditions which especially evoke the sense of home, meaning home comes with us and it's a felt sense. This feels like home. We can go to a workshop and maybe we've been there for 10 minutes and it felt awkward, and then we sit down and it's like, oh, there's that feeling of arrival, and it's like, oh, I feel at home here. And sometimes that sense of home can be stronger than maybe we experienced as children or in our hometown at school. So this sense of home is an aspect of that which is able to feel the sensory aspect of ourselves, meaning it's part of our consciousness. Because without our consciousness, of course, we can't sense anything at all. So the sense of home is a quality of consciousness. Now, as a sense, like the sense of sight or the sense of touch or the sense of sound or the sense of taste, it's not a dull, monotonous one thing. It's a spectrum. It's a whole orchestra, an orchestra of home. And it's extremely alive, meaning in every moment, the sense of home can renew itself. It refreshes and refreshes and refreshes and refreshes. At the same time that with this quality, there is this releasing, releasing, releasing. with the sense of home, there is immediately a release of stress, a relaxation, a movement downwards into the comfy chair with the yogurt from the fridge, digesting. Yummy, yummy. There's this downward movement. At the same time that there is also this conscious awakening movement. There's something about being able to relax in order to awaken. Now I can come online. Now I can be available to life. Now there's some space. So consciousness is moving down and a little bit awakening at the same time, in a very natural, harmonious movement. Extremely natural. And a lot of qualities are coming online with it, which are made possible by the refresh. To clean our home is to refresh it. And it shines in its familiarity more than ever. But of course, within consciousness, within the field of experience, the capacity for quickening of vibration, for awakening, is kind of endless. And with each moment of awakening of consciousness and awakening of the sense of home, there is the introduction of some kind of total reset, beginner's mind. Because for it to be alive, for consciousness to be conscious, it has to reset itself constantly, arriving and arriving in the now, in the now, in the now, the sense of home in the now. That's what gives it life. That's what lets it become an atmosphere. That's what lets it expand. It's what lets us absorb it. That it's so very alive. Refreshing, refreshing, refreshing. Otherwise, nobody could come in and we couldn't breathe through it. We wouldn't have this incredible rejuvenating power. So it's like knowing and unknowing, experiencing and releasing, but from the depth of the place of safety, protection, peace, love, relaxation, nurture, belonging, which are not endpoints. All of these are very dynamic awakening qualities as well. So why is this especially important with a sense of home? Well, we all know, if we look back to our childhood homes, that there are certain patterns or certain atmospheres that we might have picked up, which feel like home, but which aren't very welcoming, aren't very pleasant, aren't really optimal. For example, maybe our sense of home has become identified with being a very nervous place, quite hypervigilant, suspicious a little bit, waiting for the disaster to happen. Maybe our sense of home has been shadowed by this shared loneliness, where nobody really knows what is going on here, and everyone gave up trying to know what's going on here. So there's just this mood of loneliness where we just don't go there. Maybe the sense of home has been, what began to feel like home has been, arguing, conflicting, complaining. Maybe that feels like home. Maybe it's been something sinister and morbid, so that when we hear something sinister and morbid, our whole body relaxes as if this is home. And so we tend naturally towards the sinister and morbid, because that feels like home, and we fall in love with the sinister and morbid. We seek out that disaster that's always in the background home we've been waiting for. We seek it out, that it will happen already, to fulfill the promise of home. So there's a shadow side there. And This is part of our karma, part of the deeper healing process between our individual soul and being born here within this physical form, within this culture, this family, this world at this moment. And often what's there with all of those patterns, including the vibration of love and the vibration of peace and the feeling of relaxation, what's also there is this very familiar dread, or this very familiar not belonging, or this very familiar a little bit happy but not really. This very old and familiar sense of slavery. Even it could be a very familiar sense that this is always going to be there and it's never going to change, because that's what home is. That's the bottom line. This world is unsafe. It's a lonely, unsafe, dangerous, hateful world. And that became our normal, the furniture of home. And that's okay. But the magic of consciousness is that it's refreshing, 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 like the cells of the body are refreshing, refreshing, like the neural networks in the brain are refreshing, refreshing, like each day is refreshing. It's refreshing in every moment. So there is this possibility to awaken the sense of home in a new way, from a greater depth, from a purer place, be within the consciousness, behind the history of what's been experienced, from the place of that which is able to experience, to awaken in such a way that for moments the familiar appears as strange, as if you're experiencing it for the first time. And we can maybe look at our mother or father from our birth family, or our old childhood friend, and with a kind of wonder that we really don't know who they are. They're not familiar at all. Who is this person? The strangeness that they have their own universe, their own experience. That this world, even though we might walk through the familiar streets of our hometown, isn't what we thought it was that we experienced yesterday, that there's something else also here to explore, that there are undercurrents, that there's other energies holding it all together than the ones we got used to, like loneliness or social fear. And so there can be this awakening within the sense of home. And then home can seem like a very strange place for moments. Even the home of the body can appear as strange. It's almost as if we look at our hand and we're looking at this phenomena of having a hand which we can move for the very first time. Or maybe we look at it in a way that we didn't look at since we were a baby, looking at the hand. What is this agency that I have a hand with fingers and I can move it around? The strangeness of it. The strangeness of being able to experience the temperature of the body. You know, within the familiarity of home, we'll say, oh, it's hot here. Oh, it's cold here. Oh, I need to turn on a heater. Oh, I need to turn on the air condition, the weather. We talk about a lot in England. But then we move into the refresh of consciousness and we connect to the phenomena of being able to sense the temperature in the body. It's no longer hot or cold. It's a whole happening. It's a whole orchestra of experience. Even temperature, even hotness isn't what it appears to be. Something is happening within the heat. Something is happening within the coolness. And so often it's all happening at the same time in different areas of experience. It's so very alive to be alive. So our very perception of where we are and how we are and what we are begins to change. And after a while of practicing just that one, let's say with the temperature, after a while we get used to it. There is this habituation. We start to recognize it. Ah, yes, I recognize that lukewarm feeling in the fingers and that other kind of heat which is in the solar plexus, and that warmth which is in the pelvic, and that coolness which is sometimes moving over my shoulders. I begin to recognize it. It's not so amazing anymore. I don't get so excited. It becomes familiar. It becomes home. And in a sneaky, sneaky, sneaky way, we've come even more home to the body through a cycle of strangeness and refamiliarization, releasing into the unknown and integrating the new area of experience. What was uncomfortable becomes comfortable. Now, there's this amazing thing that happens when we begin to inquire into the quality of home, the sense of home. Given that it's a sense of home, and given that a sense of home could not navigate, it couldn't be a compass without it having a center point which knows very well where home is. The home that we came for when we were born into this world. The home which we came from. The home which is behind all of this web of entanglements and friendships and loving and losing and expecting and disappointing and trying and trying and trying to come to be at home and leaving home and leaving home and arriving again. Behind all of that, it's also the home that we know intuitively we will be returning to. In the guts of ourselves, we know it. In our minds, we might fear it. Nobody wants to die. But when we meet that rite of passage, and somebody has passed who's very, very close to us, we'll find ourselves recognizing in a very familiar way that they are coming home. And they're not even going home. It's like they're coming home to that place inside of us which we never actually left. Something can shift in terms of spiritual relaxation, spiritual development with each one that's born and each one that passes over. Because of this, because there is this readdressing in a new way, in an awake way, with beginner's heart, as if for the first time, this evidence of home. Evidence of home, which is not what we learned, not what we were taught to believe. Evidence of home, which is much more a sensory event. A home which is so utterly one with all that we are, in that it's moving through the emptiness between every moment of experience, between every in-breath and out-breath, beneath every thought. Through all sensations, this home is there, like the emptiness that allows us to sense anything at all, like the space between each note of music. The home is in the space, it's in the silence. Everywhere where we truly are as receivers of experience. And as this home begins to differentiate into qualities, and we ask ourselves from the depth of ourselves, not from a place of fear, not from a place of conditioning, but from the pelvic, from the place where we come into life, where we rise into life. What is our individual sense of home? If we were to bring the atmosphere of home from the core of our soul into this room right now, the depth of home that we have to share with the home of this world, the home that from the soul of ourselves we are here to channel into the room where you are right now, what would be that vibration? What ingredients would be there? What ingredients would you like to be there? How would you taste it? How would you touch it? How would you feel it? How would you access the softness of that? And as we dare to go there, we dare to allow the individual, unique vibration of home as it wants to move through us, to breathe through us, to emanate through us. As we begin to allow it, we might notice this incredibly blissful combination of familiarity, which is like a subtle, subtle, subtle kind of relaxation, almost as if the air was relaxing finally at ease. And strangeness. But not strangeness like something's wrong, it's odd, it's dissociated. No, a kind of pleasant, awake, curious, alive strangeness, non-binding, awake but not exhausting, presence. The presence of all that we are. And when we're able to begin sharing that, even in moments, or just checking in as a compass to that deeper sense of home, what becomes apparent is that it's not a finite resource. It's not like we get a bit of the atmosphere of home and then it runs out. It's an endless, infinite resource. And as it's allowed to move, it's allowed to be whatever it needs to be in attunement with the environment, including the environment of the body and the environment of the world around us. It's allowed to be alive with exactly the qualities that are needed. Sometimes it can be a playful place. Sometimes it can be a nurturing energy. Sometimes it can be a very warm energy. Sometimes it can be an energy which is very soothing and cool and calm. All according to what's needed and which is aroused out of a much deeper source, which is the home of the home of the home. The place we never left, the place we could never leave. In fact, the only thing we can say about it is that this home can expand exponentially. And it can be as intimate as a touch. But we can never be without it. We can never get rid of it. And as such, it's an incredible resource that when it's not being used, because it's so elemental, it will torture us a little bit until we are able to release the conditions and allow ourselves to be utterly as we are, as channels of this incredible quality of consciousness. Of course, in non-dual speak, you will hear that consciousness is home. And it is, and it always will be. And consciousness also needs to rest sometimes, and also that is, it's just day and night. Okay, we leave it like that, and in 5 minutes, we will have a homey meditation.
So, welcome back, everybody. It's so nice to see you all again. So, let's move into a little meditation around the non dual quality of home. So, if you could find a relaxed position, and close your eyes. And bring your conscious awareness towards your physical body. So, how does your body feel right now? What's the main sensation of your body? And whatever it is, I would like you to give it some space and time. Just allow it to be there and try to relax into it. And then I'd like you to connect with where your body is supported by the chair or the couch, the mattress, the floor. And try to relax even more into this support. And then I'd like you to connect with the center line inside your body. The central column between the top of your head and the pelvic. And in connecting with the central column, we try to relax our conscious awareness in this area. And while we stay aware of the central column, we connect with our breathing. And we follow our breathing in and out. And maybe it's possible to breathe in through the central column downwards to the pelvic. And whatever wants to release, to allow it to release in the out breath. We breathe in through the central column downwards. And whatever needs to release, we release with our out breath. And then I'd like you to connect with this sense of home. And feeling of home. And you can breathe the feeling of home, the atmosphere of home, in through the central column towards the pelvic. And with the out breath, we allow to release whatever wants to release. We breathe in the sense of home through the central column down to the pelvic. And we breathe out whatever wants to release. And then we just take some time just to rest in the central column. Then I like you to connect with the sense of home in something, a place, a person, or maybe your house, outside yourself. We are connecting with the sense of home outside ourselves. And then I'd like you to connect with the sense of home inside yourself. And then I'd like you to reconnect again with the sense of home outside yourself. We move to the sense of home inside ourselves. And again, we connect or move to the sense of home outside ourselves. And we move back to the sense of home inside ourselves. And then we try to connect with both the sense of home outside ourselves and the sense of home inside ourselves. We connect with the sense of home outside ourselves and the sense of home inside ourselves at the same time. And we reconnect with our breathing. And we breathe in the sense of home outside ourselves. And we breathe out the sense of home inside ourselves. We breathe in the sense of home outside ourselves. And we breathe out the sense of home inside ourselves. And then again, we connect with the central column and just rest in the central column. And then I'd like you to connect with the vibration, the energy of home. What would it look like? What would this vibration, this energy look like? Does it have a form? So, what sound does it make? Does it have a sound? Does it have a smell? Is there a special smell which is coming forward when we connect with the energy of home, the vibration of home? Does it have a taste? Is there a certain taste which comes forward when we connect with the vibration of home, the energy of home? And how would it be to touch it? How would it be to touch by the vibration of home? To touch the vibration of home, the energy of home. And how would it be to be touched by the energy, the vibration of home? How would it be to be touched by the energy or the vibration of home? Then I'd like you to connect with the central column again and just rest in the central column. So while we slowly are coming back to the here and now, it's time to say goodbye to the people on the live stream and thank you for being here this week again. And we hope that you have a wonderful week and we hope to experience you again next week. Bye. We have a